The door creaked open as I stepped into the hallway, the weariness of a 14-hour shift weighing heavy on my shoulders. Joey's cheerful voice pierced through the fog of exhaustion. "Mommy," he called, sprinting towards me, his little feet echoing through the hall. I barely had time to drop my keys before he leaped into my arms. "Guess what, Mommy? Daddy says we're going to the fair." His excitement was contagious, but my eyes shifted to Brad, who was descending the stairs with a casual smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Brad, the fair, huh?" "This is a surprise," I said, more to ground myself than to question his plans. Brad approached, arms open for a brief hug. "Yeah, thought it'd be fun for Joey. You've been working so hard, Claire. Take some time for yourself." "I wish I could join you both, but surgery tomorrow," I replied. Brad's smile stayed, but the edges of his mouth tightened just a hair. "Don't worry about it. Joey's got me while you're saving lives," Brad reassured, but there was an unfamiliar rehearsed edge to his voice that sent a flicker of unease through me. "Okay, you two. Enjoy the fair. I'll see you tomorrow evening," I said, trying to shake off the odd feeling. Joey clung to my leg. "Will you read me a story tonight, Mommy?" "Of course, sweetheart. Right after dinner." Dinner was quick, a rush of pasta and garlic bread paired with intermittent conversations about the fair and Joey's future school projects. Afterward, Joey and I curled up with his favorite book, settling into a familiar routine that brought me comfort. As I tucked Joey into bed, his innocent, sleepy gaze met mine. "Is Daddy going to take me to the fair tomorrow?" "Yes, Joey, he promised, didn't he?" My voice was softer than usual, a balm against the uneasy stirrings in the pit of my stomach. "Okay, good night, Mommy. Good night, my love." I gently kissed his forehead and closed his door, the click echoing in the quiet hallway. Brad was in the study when I found him. The door was ajar, allowing the soft glow of his desk lamp to spill out. I leaned against the frame. "When did you decide on the fair?" He looked up, a brief flicker of surprise in his eyes before his smile returned. "This afternoon. Thought it'd be a nice break." "Thank you," I said, meaning it despite the unease. Brad's sudden spontaneity was out of character, but perhaps he was just trying to reconnect. "I'm sorry I've been so swamped at work," he said, the words tumbling out too smoothly. "It's all right, Brad. Joey's looking forward to it. Just make sure you both have fun." Brad nodded, his eyes reluctantly meeting mine before turning back to his screen. The unease returned. Stronger now, but I swallowed it down. I had a surgery to prepare for and a family to balance. The next day passed in a blur of patient charts and surgical prep. Brad's text came through just before noon. "Emergency project tonight, hon. Can you pick Joey up?" I stared at the message, fingers poised above the screen. Brad's job at the tech company rarely had emergencies. "Sure," I typed back, my thoughts racing. I asked my mother to pick up Joey and went through the rest of my shift on autopilot. By the time I got home, Joey was already asleep and Mom waited with a cup of chamomile tea. "Everything okay, Claire?" she asked gently. "Just busy at the hospital," I lied through a weary smile, but deep down I knew something was wrong. Tomorrow I would have to dig deeper, but for now I needed sleep. As I lay in bed, Brad's empty side a cold reminder. The perfect image of our family began to waver, showing cracks I couldn't ignore any longer. The morning started with the hum of hospital machinery and the squeak of rubber soles on linoleum floors. I waded through patient charts and pre-surgery briefings, pushing last night's unease to the back of my mind. "Morning, Dr. Miller," called Sarah, a nurse, handing me a fresh stack of files. "Morning, Sarah. Anything urgent?" I asked, skimming through the pages. "Just the usual pre-op details. But your phone's been buzzing all morning. Looks like you're popular today." I glanced at my phone, multiple texts from Brad lighting up the screen. "Work's crazy today," read the first one. "Emergency project might run late," came another. My brows furrowed. "Brad's been working crazy hours lately," Sarah said, noticing my perplexed look. "Everything okay at home?" "Just a busy season," I replied, though doubt lingered in my mind. The rest of the day unfolded in a blur of surgeries and patient consultations. Despite my best efforts, Brad's messages kept gnawing at me. An emergency project was out of the ordinary for his role. I waved off the creeping suspicion with a brisk shake of my head, focusing on my work. Between appointments, I texted my mother, "Can you grab Joey after school? Brad's caught up." "Of course, dear, I'll take him for ice cream," she responded. Relief washed over me as I returned to my tasks, but later that afternoon a new message from Brad popped up. Running even later. Got dinner covered. Don't wait up. Hiding my frustration was becoming more challenging. I slipped my phone back into my coat pocket and continued with the last patient of the day. Hours later, I found myself alone in the on-call room, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together the threads of my unease. The drive home was quiet. Save for the rhythmic wipers against a Seattle drizzle. I walked into a dim house just as Brad's car pulled into the driveway. "Hey, you're home late," he remarked with a touch too much nonchalance, stepping inside and shaking off rain. "Long day. Surgery ran late," I responded curtly. "Where's Joey?" "With Mom, having ice cream." "Thought you had an emergency?" "Yeah, some last-minute deadlines. Lucky I made it home just now." Brad's tone was dismissive, too casual. We stood there in the foyer, a silence heavy with unasked questions. "I'll pick up Joey from Mom's," I finally said, retreating to my car without waiting for a response. Joey greeted me with an ice cream-stained smile, and I thanked Mom, assuring her everything was fine. The ride home was filled with Joey's innocent chatter, a temporary balm to my churning thoughts. As I tucked Joey in, the door creaked open again as Brad entered quietly. "Everything all right?" he asked, feigning concern. "Just overworked," I replied, my tone as controlled as I could muster. "I'll be at the hospital tomorrow, too. More surgeries." "Claire, take it easy, okay? I got things covered here," Brad said, placing a hand on my shoulder, but his touch felt foreign, almost mechanical. "I'll make sure of that," I answered, slipping away under the pretense of preparing for the next day. The house settled into an uneasy quiet as the night deepened. I lay in bed, the hollow space where Brad used to be a cold confirmation of distance. His late nights and forced assurances weren't adding up, and the cracks in our lives grew more apparent by the hour. Preparing for surgery and managing life as a mother was one thing, but piecing together a fractured marriage driven by half-truths and evasions was another. The discrepancy in Brad's behavior nagged at my mind, urging a deeper look. Tomorrow, perhaps I'd enlist a little help and finally uncover what was really going on. Today was a rare early shift at the hospital, ending ahead of schedule. As I drove home, I felt a small flicker of excitement. Brad and Joey loved homemade lasagna, and I decided to surprise them with one. Back in my kitchen, the familiar rhythm of chopping vegetables and the sizzle of garlic in the pan brought a sense of normalcy. The rich scent of tomato sauce filled the air as I layered noodles, sauce, and cheese. It was a simple gesture, but it felt like a piece of the old us, a piece I desperately wanted to reclaim. As the lasagna baked, I set the table, noticing Brad's laptop open on the counter, a reminder of his recent late-night emergencies. I peered towards his home office at the end of the hall, wondering if he was working there now. Joey's voice broke through my thoughts. "Mommy, what smells so good?" He barreled into the kitchen. "Lasagna, buddy. Your favorite," I said, ruffling his hair. Joey's eyes lit up. "Yay! Is Daddy home yet?" I glanced at the clock. "He should be. Why don't you go check in his office?" Joey ran off, excitedly calling out for Brad. I followed more slowly, wiping my hands on a towel. Reaching the office door, I noticed it ajar. Joey's voice inside. "Daddy, when's dinner?" I paused. Brad's low voice, muffled but unmistakably tense, carried through the hallway. "Just a minute, Joey. Go play, okay?" Joey reappeared in the hall, a mix of confusion and excitement on his face. "Daddy's busy with a friend from work," he announced, bouncing back to his room. A chill ran through me. "A friend from work?" I pushed the door open a bit more and saw 2 coffee cups on the desk and faint whispers. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside. Brad looked up, clearly startled, and so did the young woman beside him. Her face was unfamiliar but strikingly pretty. Alexis, I guessed. "Discussing a project, Brad?" My voice was steady, but my heart pounded. Brad's eyes flicked to Alexis, then back to me, his calm facade cracking. "Claire, this is Alexis. We're just working on a presentation." "Alone? At home?" "That's unprofessional, don't you think?" I said, each word clipped. Alexis stood, her chair scraping the floor, looking uncomfortable. "I should go." "Yes, I think you should." My gaze didn't waver from Brad as she slipped past me and out the door. The room felt colder once she was gone. Brad tried to explain. "She needed help with—" "Spare me the details," I cut in. "This doesn't look like help to me." I turned on my heel and left the office, not waiting for a response. The lasagna smelled burnt now, a cruel touch given the situation. I tossed it into the trash, appetite ruined. Joey appeared again. "Mommy, is dinner ready?" I forced a smile. "Not tonight, sweetie." "How about we order pizza?" His face brightened. "Yay, pizza!" The door banged behind Brad as he entered the kitchen. His expression was conflicted, a mix of guilt and frustration. "Claire, nothing happened." I didn't look at him. "Do what you need to do, but don't expect me to believe another word without proof." He seemed taken aback, but I couldn't bear to hear any more empty reassurances. The room filled with an uneasy quiet as I dialed for pizza. That night, after putting Joey to bed, I stared out of our bedroom window, the city lights mocking the darkness within our home. Tomorrow, I'd begin to gather proof. Brad's reassurances had worn thin, and the cracks in our marriage were now undeniable. I woke up feeling like a weight was pressing on my chest. The memory of Brad and Alexis in his office gnawed at me as I got ready for another day at the hospital. Joey's laughter echoed down the hall as he played, a bittersweet sound that only deepened my resolve. With a quick breakfast and a kiss on Joey's forehead, I headed out the door. The hospital served as both a haven and a battlefield, a place where I could lose myself in the demands of surgery and ignore the war brewing at home. Dr. Morgan, my mentor, cornered me in the break room. "You look tired, Claire. Everything all right?" "Just busy," I replied, half smiling, and maybe a bit stressed. He studied me for a moment, his sharp eyes not missing a beat. "Let me know if you need any help. Even the strongest need a hand sometimes." "Thanks, Thomas. I'll keep that in mind." I appreciated his concern, but wasn't ready to let anyone into this mess yet. At lunchtime, I decided to text Brad. "We need to talk tonight. I'll be home by 6. I slipped my phone back into my lab coat, diving back into work to keep dark thoughts at bay. Later that evening, I arrived home to find the house unnervingly quiet. Joey was cuddled on the couch with a book, but Brad was nowhere in sight. "Hey, buddy," I greeted Joey. "Where's Daddy?" Joey looked up, eyes wide with innocence. "He's in the office again, with that friend." My jaw clenched. Without a second thought, I marched down the hall and pushed open the office door. Brad looked up, eyes widening in surprise. Alexis was standing close, too close, handing him a file. They both froze. Discussing another project? Do projects always need such proximity? My voice was dangerously calm. "This isn't what it looks like, Claire," Brad said, standing up too quickly. "That's starting to sound rehearsed," I shot back, stepping inside the room. Alexis, pale and nervous, glanced between us. "I think I should." "Go, Alexis." "Now," Brad ordered, his voice hard. She didn't need further prompting, scurrying past me after a brief apologetic look. The door closed behind her with a click that echoed through the tension-filled room. I crossed my arms, standing my ground. "How long has this been going on?" "There's nothing going on, Claire," Brad insisted, but his eyes told a different story, one filled with guilt and defiance. My anger flared. "Do you take me for a fool? You think I can't see what's right in front of me?" Brad took a deep breath. "We're just working together. That's it. Anything else is in your head." "So it's my imagination that you're spending more time with her than with your own family?" He raked a hand through his hair. "I've been busy. Work's been hectic, and she's part of that. I'm done believing your lies, Brad." My voice was firm, unyielding. "Claire, please try to understand. It's never what you think," he pleaded, stepping closer, but I held up a hand to stop him. "Save it. There are only so many lies I can take." With that, I turned and walked out, letting the door slam behind me. Joey was still on the couch, now looking up at me with wide eyes filled with concern. I forced a smile. "How about we order Chinese tonight, kiddo?" He nodded eagerly, unaware of the storm brewing between his parents. Once Joey was asleep, I sat down at the kitchen table, phone in hand, and dialed Dr. Morgan's number. "Thomas? It's Claire. I need your help with something personal." The resolve in my voice was clear. It was time to uncover the truth, starting with a private investigator. This was the first step towards reclaiming my life and protecting Joey. The next morning, I met Dr. Morgan in his office. His usual stern expression softened when he saw my face. "Claire, you sounded pretty urgent on the phone last night," he said, closing the door behind me. "Thomas, I need help, and it's not medical." I hesitated, but the urgency in my heart pushed me forward. "I think Brad's having an affair." Dr. Morgan's eyes narrowed. "I'm sorry to hear that. What makes you certain?" I found him with Alexis, twice. The hurt in my voice cracked through my calm exterior. He leaned back in his chair, considering. Do you want the truth or just some peace of mind? I need the truth, Thomas, for Joey and for myself. He nodded. I know a PI who can help, James Bedford. He's discreet and thorough. Thank you, Thomas. I don't know what I'd do without you. Later that day, I visited James Bedford's modest office. It was tucked away on the outskirts of downtown, the kind of place you stumbled upon when looking for something you didn't want others to find. James, a middle-aged man with a keen gaze, greeted me with a firm handshake. Dr. Morgan told me you'd be coming by. Let's get to it. I laid out everything I knew, from the late nights to the encounters with Alexis. His expression stayed professional, but I could see the wheels turning. Brad's been meticulous, but not enough. James said, flipping through his notepad, I'll need access to his email, phone records, and I'll follow him when needed. How long will it take? I asked, the anxiety creeping into my voice. Not long. If he's sloppy, we'll know soon. Otherwise, a week or two. Are you prepared for what we might find? I straightened my posture, my resolve hardening. Yes, I am. I need to know, for Joey. James nodded and led me through the necessary steps to provide him access to Brad's digital world. As I left his office, the weight on my shoulders felt both heavier and lighter at the same time. Back home, life continued at its relentless pace. Brad's behavior grew more erratic, his excuses thinner, but I played along, nursing my silence and waiting for James's call. One evening, as Joey was in bed, James called. Claire, I've got something. Can you meet me? We met at a small cafe, where James slid a folder across the table. My fingers trembled as I opened it, seeing photos of Brad and Alexis, dates, locations, clear proof. Each image was a stab to the heart. They've been seeing each other for months, James said, his voice low. Mostly on days you're at the hospital. I closed the folder, my mind racing. This is enough. Thank you, James. Take care, Claire. This won't be easy. I left the cafe, the folder clutched tight in my hands, and drove home in silence. Joey was asleep, his innocent face a painful reminder of what was at stake. Brad was in the office as usual. Brad, I called, stepping inside without knocking. His head snapped up, eyes narrowing at the folder in my hands. What is it, Claire? His voice was wary. I know everything, about you and Alexis. I threw the folder onto his desk, its contents spilling out. Brad's face turned a sickly shade. Claire, I can explain. No, you can't, I interrupted. I don't need your lies anymore. This ends now. The room was filled with silence, only broken by the sound of Brad's shallow breaths. My mind was made up. Tonight I would start planning my next steps. This wasn't just about ending an affair. It was about ensuring Joey and I didn't lose everything in the process. Brad's betrayal would cost him dearly, and I would make sure of that. The corporate event was glitzy, filled with well-dressed executives and polite chatter. Brad had insisted on attending, despite the tension between us. Tonight, he was receiving an award, and the spotlight was his. Perfect. I arrived a little late, blending into the crowd, my heart pounding not with nerves, but with steely resolve. I held the folder of evidence close, its weight a reminder of the truth I would expose. Brad, in his tailored suit, stood near the stage, smiling and shaking hands. Alexis hovered nearby, the epitome of naive charm. As the speaker introduced Brad, I moved closer, positioning myself where the crowd could see and hear me. The host called Brad to the stage, his name met with applause. As he stepped up, I moved forward, the folder in hand. Brad Miller, I began loudly, cutting through the room's buzz. Conversations halted. All eyes turned to me. Brad's smile faltered as he saw me approach. Claire? Surprised to see me? My voice carried a calm fury. Because I have a surprise for you all. What are you doing, Claire? Brad murmured through gritted teeth, exposing the truth. I faced the crowd. Many of you know Brad as a devoted husband and a respectable manager, but let me show you who he really is. I handed the host the folder. She opened it, her eyes widening before displaying the contents for the audience. Photos, messages, proof of Brad and Alexis's affair. Brad's face turned ghostly pale. Claire, don't. This isn't just about an affair, I continued, raising my voice. It's about deception, betrayal, and unprofessional conduct. I turned on Alexis, her composure crumbling. You jeopardized your job and his integrity with your recklessness. This isn't a tabloid scandal. This is real life, and Brad, you will face the consequences. The room buzzed with shock and whispers. Brad moved towards me, trying to salvage what was left. "Claire, can we talk about this in private?" "No, Brad. Your lies are for everyone to see. Enjoy your award, you've earned it," I spat, turning quickly and walking out. As I exited, I heard the buzz of conversations, the murmurs of disbelief, and could imagine the horror on Brad's face. This was just the beginning of his downfall. Back home, I allowed myself a moment to breathe. My phone buzzed incessantly, Brad, of course, but I ignored it. I needed to end this marriage and begin anew. The next morning, I sat in Mary Johnson's office, my lawyer and a force to be reckoned with. "Given the infidelity and evidence gathered, we have a strong case, Claire. We can push for full custody and significant financial support for you and Joey." "Do it," I said without hesitation. As we finalized the plans, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Brad, pleading for a chance to talk. He wasn't ready to let go, but I was. "What do you want, Brad?" I asked coldly. "Claire, I made a mistake. Can we please talk about this? We can fix it." "There's nothing left to fix. I want a divorce, full custody of Joey, and you to keep your distance." "Claire, please, for Joey's sake." "For Joey's sake, I'm doing this. He deserves a stable life, not one built on your lies." The line went dead, and I sank back, feeling a sense of finality mix with the pain. This wasn't just about vengeance, but about starting fresh. As I walked out of Mary's office, the crisp Seattle air felt like the beginning of a new chapter. Brad's betrayal had set the stage, but now it was my story to write, and I was ready for whatever came next. Seated in Mary Johnson's office once more, the room felt more like a battlefield than a place of legal counsel. Brad, looking haggard and desperate, had arrived minutes earlier with his own lawyer. The contrast between us was stark. I was composed, determined, and unyielding. He was harried, struggling to preserve any remaining dignity. Mary spread the divorce documents across the table. "Given the evidence of infidelity and Claire's role as the primary caretaker, we're requesting full custody of Joey and significant financial support." Brad's lawyer flinched but remained silent. Brad leaned forward, his voice cracking. "Claire, this can't be how it ends. What about Joey? He needs both of us." "Joey needs stability, Brad. Your deceit destroyed any semblance of that," I replied coolly. "Let's not forget your financial responsibilities," Mary added, pushing another document forward. "You'll be providing substantial child support and alimony until Claire is fully secure." Brad's face contorted in anguish. "This is unfair. You can't just take everything from me." Mary's eyes narrowed. "Unfair? What's unfair is a child whose father prioritized an affair over his family." Brad's lawyer finally spoke. "We're willing to negotiate visitation rights. Brad might have made a mistake, but that doesn't mean he should be cut out of Joey's life entirely." Brad turned to me, his eyes pleading. "Claire, please, don't do this." I met his gaze with ironclad resolve. "I'm not doing this, Brad. You did. You made the choices that led us here." After an agonizing silence, Brad slumped back in his chair, defeated. "Fine, but I want to see Joey. He's my son, too." Mary nodded. "Supervised visitation can be arranged until Brad proves he's capable of being a responsible father." Brad's face twisted, but he said nothing. The terms were set, and the papers signed. The end of our marriage was as cold and formal as the betrayal that led to it. Outside the courthouse, I felt the chill of the Seattle air bite through my coat. Brad approached me, his presence a ghost of our past. "Claire, I'm sorry," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Sorry isn't enough," I replied, not unkindly but firmly. "You need to rebuild your life, Brad, and I need to protect Joey." He opened his mouth to say more but thought better of it. He walked away, shoulders slumped, a shadow of the man he used to be. Back home, I found Joey playing in the living room, his innocent joy a stark contrast to the day's grim proceedings. "Mommy," he called, running over with a drawing. "Look what I made." I knelt down, admiring his artwork. "It's beautiful, Joey, just like you." "Is Daddy coming today?" he asked, eyes hopeful. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Not today, buddy. Maybe another time." His face fell briefly but brightened as I suggested, "How about we bake some cookies?" "Yeah!" "Can I crack the eggs?" Joey's excitement was contagious. As we baked, mixing the ingredients and laughing together, I realized this was our new beginning. Brad's betrayal had brought us to this point, but it wouldn't define us. We would find our way, Joey and I, and build a future full of moments like this, filled with love, honesty, and stability. Lying in bed that night, I felt a sense of closure. The battle was not over, but the hardest part was behind me. I watched Joey sleep, his peaceful expression holding promise for the days to come. We had survived the storm, and now it was time to build anew. My life, my terms, and a future where Joey and I could find peace and happiness, a retribution served, and a new chapter begun. Months had passed since the courtroom showdown. Joey and I had moved into a new home, a cozy 2-bedroom in a quiet suburb. Life had taken on a new rhythm, one free from the shadow of betrayal. Joey thrived in this fresh start, his laughter a constant in our daily routine. "Mommy, can we go to the park today?" Joey's eyes sparkled with excitement as he tugged at my hand. "Absolutely, sweetie. Let's go have some fun," I said, feeling lighter with each passing day. At the park, Joey raced ahead, his energy boundless. I watched him climb the jungle gym, a small smile playing on my lips. It was moments like these that confirmed I'd made the right choice, that the stormy days were behind us. As Joey played, my phone buzzed. A text from Brad. "Can we talk?" I sighed, stepping away from the laughter and joy. "What is it, Brad?" He called immediately. "Claire, I know I messed up, but I want to see Joey. I'm trying to turn things around." "You've put him through a lot," I replied, trying to keep my voice even. "It's not just about you. It's about what's best for Joey." "I get that," Brad said, his voice strained. "I'm working hard to be better. Please, just a chance to show you." I glanced over at Joey, swinging high, his giggles floating on the breeze. "I'll think about it, Brad, but supervised visits only." "Thank you, Claire. I won't let you down again," he promised. Back home, Joey and I fell into our evening routine. Dinner, his favorite cartoons, then bedtime stories. As I tucked him in, his tiny arms wrapped around my neck, his whisper was soft. "I love you, Mommy." "I love you too, Joey, more than anything." After he fell asleep, I sat on the porch, the cool air calming my thoughts. The future was uncertain, but I found strength in the small victories, each day better than the last. The following weekend, Brad and Joey's supervised visit was scheduled. I felt a pang of anxiety, but I knew it was necessary for Joey and for Brad to find their footing again. Brad arrived looking more put together, yet still worn by his mistakes. "Hey, Joey," he greeted, bending down to embrace our son. Joey's face lit up with joy, an expression I hadn't seen in a long time. "Daddy!" Joey threw himself into Brad's arms, their connection instantaneous and heartwarming. I watched from a distance, Mary by my side, ensuring the meeting remained civil. "Looks like progress," she remarked, her voice filled with cautious optimism. "Maybe," I conceded, eyes fixed on Joey's happiness. "One step at a time." It was awkward yet necessary. We talked briefly about Joey's school, his interests, surface-level conversations intended to rebuild trust. As the visit ended, Brad approached me. "Claire, thank you, I won't mess this up again." I nodded, not trusting myself to say more. His actions would speak louder than any promises he could make. Back inside, Joey chattered excitedly about his time with Brad. I listened, heart heavy but hopeful. This new life would take adjustment, but it was a journey worth taking. That night, after Joey was asleep, I found peace in the quiet moments. This was our fresh start, measured in small steps and guarded optimism. Each day was a new chance to build a life grounded in truth and love. Looking at Joey's peaceful face, I whispered a promise to myself. We've got this, one day at a time. The road ahead was uncharted, but with each step we moved further from the pain and closer to a future filled with hope and healing. In the end, that's all we needed, a chance to rebuild and the strength to face whatever came our way.